his beautiful wife. In this world, not unlike our own, women are considered the property of their husbands from the moment they get married. Men pay taxes on their wives, and divorce is practically unheard of except for the uber-rich. Wives are also bought and sold, even exchanged in the case of a husband passing away. And if at this point you're already disgusted, don't worry, I'm right there with you. This horrible man named Joseph is now putting his beautiful wife up for sale like she's some kind of animal. The auction offers get really high, delighting Joseph and his side chick, who are excited to be filthy rich. The final bid goes to some chubby creep, and Joseph hands her over. As if this whole situation wasn't gross enough, he even recommends a little violence if the girl isn't obedient enough. I think I'm gonna be sick. Just as they're making the transaction, a hooded figure calls out from the back of the room, offering $1 million to take the girl. Everyone thinks he's lying until the stranger drops a literal gold bar on the table. The hooded man signs the contract, and in seconds, the deal is done. The poor girl is led out of the tavern by her new owner, who takes her to an ornate carriage flanked by armored guards. Wait, who is this guy? The hooded man reaches for the girl's cheek and sees her flinch. He apologizes for startling her and asks her to stay still, just for a moment. He then unties the rope around her neck and finally removes his hood to reveal shining golden hair and kind blue eyes. This gorgeous boy introduces himself as Ash Brinicle and extends his hand to the poor traumatized girl. Tentatively, she takes it and gives him her own name in return, Chloe. Ash smiles softly and pulls her towards the carriage. Little does she know, her life has just taken a complete 180. Because as of this moment, she just became the new Marchioness of Brinicle. Chloe wakes up the next morning in the fanciest room she's ever been in. She's not sure how she ended up in the bed and briefly panics that she might have fainted on the journey. A knock sounds at the door, scaring her again. But it's only her new maid, Bessie, come to help her get ready for the day. Bessie suggests they take a shower first, gently guiding the shaking girl out of bed and toward the bathroom. The poor thing is too scared to even speak. The new maid discovers why as soon as her clothes are off. Chloe's body is completely covered in bruises and scars. Bessie tries not to react, even though she's overflowing with rage. She points her mistress towards a pool of warm water and flower petals first, to ease her aching muscles and start healing some of those wounds. But Chloe doesn't find it very calming at all. The sight of the petals and water sends her back to a horrible memory of her ex-husband, who accused her of flirting with their next-door neighbor. She was literally just visiting her aunt, but Joseph didn't believe her and held her under the water as punishment. Anyone else starting to hope our old friend Joseph meets a horrible, mysterious death? Perhaps at the hands of our new friend Ash? Bessie doesn't see what's going on and gently encourages her toward the water, but Chloe is shaking so hard she can hardly stand up. The next moment, she collapses, totally blacking out. Bessie reports the incident to Ash, explaining the state of her body and her fainting. They've already called a doctor to examine her, so now she's getting some rest. The young master seems genuinely concerned and angry about his new wife's previous treatment. He decides to visit her while she's sleeping. As well as the bruises, he notices that she hasn't been fed properly either. He calls her name softly and her eyes open. Ash asks her to eat and pokes fun at her for having hair stuck to her face. Bro, have you seen the girl? I think we have bigger issues than a few strands of hair right now. But this lighthearted attitude might be just what she needs. Ash isn't afraid to push and gently encourage her and makes her feel safe enough to voice her thoughts and feelings. She's probably never had anyone say that to her before, so it's a little overwhelming for poor Chloe. She's still not sure she can trust him. So far, Ash is true to his word. That night, he has his servants cook up a huge feast and tells her to eat as much as she wants. Chloe digs in, but she can't help wondering why he brought her here. I mean, can you blame her? I think we're all pretty curious about why a random noble would show up out of the blue and pay $1 million gold to save her from her abusive husband. The whole thing is just a little strange. So is the fact that she isn't scared anymore. Joseph can't come barging in to ruin her evenings. He's practically a rat in comparison to the Marquis Brinicle. Everything is going kind of okay until Chloe drops a fork. No one else reacts, but she immediately goes into survival mode, begging for forgiveness. To show her that it's no big deal, Ash drops his too, once and then twice. And besides, she's the joint owner of this estate now. She can drop as many forks as she likes, no apologies necessary. He summons a maid named Alicia to bring some more cutlery and introduces her to Chloe. Alicia will also be tending to her from now on, alongside Bessie from earlier. For the rest of the meal, Chloe eats slowly, assured by her husband that she can have as much or as little as she likes. While she's quietly regaining her strength, Ash explains the terms of their unusual relationship. The contract he signed at the auction is legally binding, meaning they are officially husband and wife. Her marriage with Joseph was effectively over the moment he put her up for sale, so there's no problem there. But for the time being, this situation is set in stone. Even if Chloe doesn't wish to be the Marchioness, there's nothing she can do about it. But I mean, really, what would she do anyway? She just became a super rich noble with her own personal maids, personal chefs, and a charming husband. Even so, Ash gives her two options. 1. She can live in luxury with no need to do her duty as a Marchioness or go out in society. She can stay at home and enjoy nice clothes, a huge mansion, and a whole army of servants at her side. The other option, however, is to fully commit to the life of a Marchioness, which would be a little difficult for someone of her background. She'd have to undergo tutoring and officially join high society, which would mean facing the two-faced nobles of this world. With that slightly intimidating introduction, Ash asks her to make a choice. And to his surprise, Chloe refuses. She wants to fulfill her responsibilities, but she doesn't want to enter a life where she's forced into things she doesn't want. Basically, she wants to pick both options and have the freedom to choose what she does and doesn't commit to. Way to go, girl! Just because he's rich and handsome does not mean he can decide your life for you. Ladies, take notes. Ash is pleasantly surprised by her answer and commends her on taking the initiative to decide for herself. The first order of business is to hire tutors, with the condition that if she doesn't like their lessons, they can send them away. She doesn't show it, but Chloe really appreciates her husband being so kind. Looks like we're finally seeing the start of a blossoming relationship between these two. For the next few days, Chloe stays in bed because her body needs time to recover. When she finally wakes up, she discovers a small mountain of presents by her bedside. Apparently, the Marquise left early for work and decided to drop her something nice to wake up to. Damn! Anyone else starting to get a little jealous of Miss Chloe? I know I am. Bessie starts to unwrap them, revealing first a fluffy teddy bear that Chloe quickly falls in love with. Maybe because it reminds her of a gift from her parents when she was young. Actually, it's almost exactly like the one from her parents, other than one single tiny detail. When she was younger, she unpicked the stitching behind the teddy bear's ear so that she could hide notes and exchange them with a girl who stayed at her house. They were best friends, Chloe and her housemate. They went everywhere together, chose ribbons for each other, and always played together. This bear reminds her of that closeness, so it's an extra special gift. Nice one, Ash. Chloe spends the rest of the morning touring the mansion with Bessie, who frequently checks in to make sure she's not overdoing it. They pass a set of closed doors that Bessie points out. Other than the Marquise, no one is ever allowed to go in there, so Bessie asks her to stay far away from it. Isn't that like the easiest way to make someone super suspicious? By pointing it out and saying it's off limits? Chloe tucks her feelings away and promises to keep Bessie's warning in her mind. They move on to the other rooms, and Bessie tells her about the surrounding territory too. The Marquise estate is so large it would take over an hour to explore by wagon, which comes as a welcome change from the lack of freedom Chloe had before. After a long day exploring, she returns to her room to cuddle with the bear. Ash walks in with a big, smug smile on his face, happy to see that she liked his gift. She thanks him for being so thoughtful, and Ash asks her what she thought of his mansion. It's obviously very stylish. Since this guy seems to have endless amounts of money to spend on random girls on auction, it's not really a surprise. He then asks for her permission to invite teachers starting from tomorrow. He's always careful to be sensitive, wanting to make a schedule so that they don't overdo it and letting her know that she can refuse anyone at any time. All of that sounds fine, but Chloe wants a female teacher first, for obvious reasons. Ash quickly changes the conversation and the topic turns to the bear. Ash says it reminds him of a happy childhood, even though he was never given a teddy bear as a child. Weird. Anyway, he agrees to summon a female teacher but asks if she'll be okay around him and male members of his family. Chloe agrees so long as he's around, and he asks her to remember that people are good or bad regardless of their gender. Well, sure, Ash, that's easy to understand when you haven't been traumatized. The next day, the new teachers arrive. The first is Elaine Hayswade, an etiquette teacher who looks pretty much exactly how you would expect someone who teaches manners to look. Next is sweet Melissa Anton, who will be teaching reading. Then Catherine Laveran, who is a noble herself and seems more interested in becoming Chloe's friend rather than her teacher. Today is just for introductions, so after the ladies have introduced themselves, they return home, leaving Chloe to process with Bessie. The maid tells her that each of those women are very famous in their fields and must have been really expensive to hire. But it will be worth it. Not only will she learn how to act as a Marchioness, but she will also have practice meeting and talking to new people. For the last 3 years, Chloe has had very little interaction with anyone other than her husband. Her childhood was totally different. Born to middle-class parents, she lived a comfortable life, until one day her parents were killed in an unexpected attack and everything changed. Pulled suddenly from her memories, Chloe is shown a few dresses, shoes, and customized accessories that Ash prepared for her. Reluctantly, she agrees to try them on and picks the yellow one first. Bessie is super excited to dress and accessorize her until Chloe looks practically unrecognizable. Yellow is definitely her color. It has been since she was younger. Her mother always used to pick yellow for her too, and she was even wearing it on the day they passed away. Yikes. Bathtubs, teddy bears, yellow dresses. Is there anything that doesn't trigger this girl? Ash doesn't return home that night because he's too busy at work. It seems like he works very hard, but even when the days are tough, he tries to find time for Chloe, even just for a moment. Slowly, she gets used to her husband's visits, so on the days when he can't come, she doesn't feel quite right. On one evening, she falls into her memories again, this time revisiting the time of her parents' funeral. A neighborhood couple came to offer their support, claiming that her parents lost everything because they failed at running their business. They got her a job taking care of little kids at an orphanage, but they never once came to visit. Instead, they got richer and richer while poor Chloe's life just fell apart. Once again, Chloe is pulled from the past by Ash with his usual bright and shining face. He compliments her dress today, which matches her eyes. He asks about the yellow dress, since Bessie told him she liked it, and offers to bring her to the dress shop in person next time. That way, they can figure out what styles she likes and dislikes for the future. Chloe is surprised she would even be allowed out, let alone to pick her own clothes. But Ash isn't like Joseph. He literally tells her that she can spend all his money on shoes if she wants. Honestly, that is such a green flag. The next day marks the start of Chloe's tutoring. The first teacher is Elaine Hayswade, the etiquette teacher. Right off the bat, she tells Chloe to express her opinion whenever necessary. It's always better to speak up than sit quietly and pretend everything is okay. Next is Melissa Anton, teaching basic studies and history, who is very friendly and compliments her handwriting. She does her best to make Chloe feel comfortable and is excited to hear that her new pupil likes to read. The Brinicle Estate is famous for having a lot of precious books in its library, so they make a plan to visit someday and find a new favorite book for Chloe. The last lesson for the day is with Catherine, who hosts a dance practice with Bessie as a partner. She's very bubbly and clearly wants to become close with her new mistress. At the end of their lesson, she asks how Chloe won the heart of the Marquis Brinicle, since he's famous in high society for never being interested in the young ladies. Chloe just kind of avoids the question while Catherine goes on to compliment her beauty and asks about their wedding date. The poor girl freezes. She's still adjusting to the house. No one has even mentioned a wedding yet. Luckily, Bessie steps in to explain that the preparations are going gradually and a date has not yet been set. Catherine doesn't think much of it and moves on to offer the Marchioness a bunch of flowers to celebrate their first meeting. Surprise, surprise, Chloe also has a horrible memory attached to flowers. One day, Joseph bought her a small bouquet to apologize for getting drunk and beating her. Fortunately, Chloe is able to accept this bunch without being pulled back into her memories. After a lesson, we get a glimpse of Catherine's true colors, which are not as bright and innocent as she seems. She deliberately wanted to enter the Brinicle Estate to scope out this new Marchioness. She has very strict views on noble society and doesn't see how someone like Chloe could have ended up with the famously handsome Marquise of the noble Brinicle family. She even bought the flowers from a beggar girl in an attempt to remind Chloe of her lower-class origins. How nasty is that? Totally oblivious of Catherine's intentions, Chloe continues receiving her lessons from tutors and becomes slowly more comfortable meeting new people around the estate. The Marquis compliments his wife on how studious she is and encourages her to take a break every now and again. They've become more comfortable with each other as well. Ash is always patient even on the days when she finds it hard to speak. And on the days they don't get to talk, she always feels a little sad. He notices the bouquet, which she never put in a vase, and asks if she likes the flowers. Chloe admits that she doesn't and explains that Joseph used to buy her flowers when he hit her. After hearing that, Ash throws the bouquet out the window at once. He gently asks her about the beatings. He starts trembling with rage while Chloe tells him that she was beaten frequently ever since she moved into his house. He then apologizes for bringing up such a difficult subject and asks her to share more with him in the future if she feels up to it, even if it's hard to talk about a time when she was depressed. But Chloe corrects him, saying that she wasn't depressed. She truly believes that she deserved her beatings, from eating too much, for asking him for money, for moving too slowly. Ash is patient with her, trying to explain that no normal person would hit another just for making a mistake. She slowly starts to realize that he's right, that she didn't do anything wrong. Does she not realize she can be kicked out at a moment's notice? She's also not that good at piano and dancing, and hasn't even tried to teach Chloe past the beginner's level. I can't tell if that's because she thinks her mistress is bad, or if she's actually not that good herself. That morning, when Chloe shows up a little tired to class, Catherine makes a huge deal about it, saying that reading is hard for people who aren't used to it, and she shouldn't push herself past her limits. Who does this girl think she is? Of course, she has a little giggle too when she finds the Marchioness was reading a children's book all night. She tells her that nobles must hold themselves to a higher standard than commoners, and she should really try to control herself. At this point, I'm just begging for Bessie or Ash to walk in and hear her saying all this, so that we don't have to put up with her anymore. The only reason Chloe hasn't spoken up yet is because she trusts Ash's judgment, since he picked her in the first place, but Catherine just keeps crossing the line. Next, she walks up to the Marchioness and takes her hands, promising to help her learn how to be a better noblewoman, even if it's not technically within her job description. I guess because Chloe hasn't reacted yet, Catherine thinks she can keep pushing and get away with this kind of behavior. We'll see how long this strategy lasts. She even goes so far as to assume Chloe can't read well, and that she's just too scared to tell her reading tutor Melissa. She offers to teach her how to read the Empire's language and recommend her some kids' books. At just that moment, Ash appears, delighting poor Chloe, who is about to finally lose her temper. Catherine plays it cool, trying her best to leave a good impression on the Marquise. She's so delusional that she even thinks he came here for her. She's literally obsessed with herself. Ash quickly sets her straight, asking why she thinks she's above the Marchioness to be talking to her so rudely. Uh-oh, busted. Catherine starts apologizing at once and begs his forgiveness. But as Ash points out, it's his wife who deserves an apology, not him. It comes as quite the shock to the arrogant girl. The Marquise Brinicle is famous for being kind and mild-mannered. She didn't think he could be so cold. Well, I guess that's just what happens when you insult someone's wife. Catherine is in a bit of a tight spot now. She truly doesn't think she did anything wrong, but she doesn't want to offend the Marquise any more than she already has. Shaking with rage, she turns to Chloe and apologizes for being careless and crossing the line. It's about the least convincing apology ever given, but Ash gives the choice up to his wife. Will they forgive this mean little girl? Catherine is half hoping she will. She's so incredibly delulu that she actually thinks Chloe was too stupid to understand half of her insults. But Chloe shocks her, asking why she should forgive her tutor. Catherine fully loses it, totally humiliated, but Chloe remains calm and asks what she did wrong. Once again, the pink-haired idiot completely misunderstands and thinks that Chloe is asking because she genuinely doesn't know. Oh, this is exhausting. This girl is living a real-life fantasy. Catherine decides to act like an idiot herself, hoping to walk away from this situation by feigning innocence. She acts like she was just trying to do her best and never intended to hurt or insult the Marchioness. Obviously, that isn't the case, and everybody knows it. Chloe finally brings reality crashing down and lays out the facts. Since the very beginning, Catherine has mocked and ignored her mistress, always talking rudely until someone with authority showed up and made her apologize. She's only sorry because she got caught, and Chloe knows it. Now Catherine knows just how badly she messed up. She pulls a desperate move, trying to act like she was being cruel on purpose to give Chloe a taste of noble society. So really, it was all for the greater good. Yeah, right. Chloe reminds her that this is all her fault. Even now, she doesn't actually regret her actions. Despite Catherine's insistence that she does, Chloe tells Ash that she has no desire to forgive her tutor. Good for her! Why would she? She wants to set an example, not trusting that Catherine would actually change if she forgave this mistake. Catherine tries to ask for mercy, claiming this is only one small mistake. But it's not like it happened once. And even aside from her treatment, she was also a terrible tutor. Chloe moves to the piano, claiming the book she provided is for children. She read it when she was just 8 years old. There are 5 more volumes they could have moved on to if she had just trusted that Chloe had the ability to go further. But Catherine just made her practice the first chapter 100 times, not caring whether she actually improved or not. So either she didn't believe in Chloe, or she herself actually can't play that well. Now that really pushes Catherine over the edge. But Chloe is saying all this to prove a point. If she can be this rude about her tutor's ability, will Catherine be able to forgive her? Clearly not. Ash is now laughing at her, although he blames it on a nearby dog, which is super random. I mean, I love that they're piling onto Catherine, but is anyone else a bit worried she's going to explode? The only one who doesn't seem to care is Ash, who actually looks like he's enjoying this little episode. He refuses to believe this is all some big misunderstanding like Catherine is claiming, and gives her a horrible job of reporting this to her father. From now on, the Marquise is going to cut off all trade with her family because of her behavior. Ouch! Now that one's gotta sting. Just to really rub it in, he says that if her father asks why, she should tell him this is all due to her disrespecting the Marchioness. Catherine bends double with tears in her eyes and begs him not to insult her like this. But it's way too late for all that. An insult to the Marchioness is an insult to the honor of the entire Brinicle family. So he orders her to leave the room at once, warning her that if anything like this happens again, he won't let her off so easily. Catherine really makes a scene, dropping to her knees and desperately begging the Marquise to reconsider. The guards drag her away, still screaming, leaving the young couple alone in the aftermath. Chloe may have put on a good show, but she's shaking. It's been over a decade since she stood up for herself like that, so it must have been hard. Luckily, Ash is there to steady her. She thanks her husband for his help, but he's just proud of her for speaking out. The difference between how he acted in front of Catherine and in front of her is so different. Anyone can tell this man really cares for her. He warns her Catherine will not be the last one to treat her like that, as noble society is full of villains who want to mess things up. The truth is, people will probably always see Chloe as a good opportunity since she seems kind and easy to manipulate. Chloe has already experienced that plenty of times, like with her parents' friends who gave her a job in the orphanage and made her work without any salary. Even her marriage to Joseph was one big manipulation, but at least now she has the strength to speak up for herself and someone who will stand by her. Chloe suddenly wonders if Ash has experienced this kind of manipulation before as well. I mean, he's a handsome marquis with a lot of power and wealth. Of course people have tried to take advantage of him. Even though it was in the past, Chloe seems worried and asks if he's all right. Ash is touched by her concern. It's hard for someone to go through as much as she has and still be kind to others at the end of it. But Chloe will always be kind to him. He literally saved her life after all. Ash really appreciates her kindness and asks if she could give him a hug. Chloe is a bit surprised and a bit scared too. She's never been held by a man other than Joseph. The physical sensation might be a bit triggering for her. Even so, she wants to do it for him, to thank him for his help. She moves past her own emotions, reminding herself that this man is different. He's not the same as Joseph. And besides, she could do with a hug herself. Chloe surprises herself by really liking the hug. She feels something warm, something she can't quite put her finger on, something that makes her blush. I think we all know exactly what that is. Ash can tell she's enjoying it, so he rests a hand on her head and asks her to stay just a little longer. Aren't they just the cutest? Ash is still thinking about the hug for a long time afterwards. He can't believe that after everything Chloe has been through, she can still be so caring. He can't forget the expression she made when she asked if he was okay. That faint smile has stayed with him all day. It reminds him of the Chloe he once knew all those years ago. Oh, finally, we're getting a bit of backstory. We're not sure what happened in between the first time they met and when they grew up, but Ash hadn't seen her for a long time when he heard she was married. He assumed she was happy and decided not to look for her if that was the case. Of course, that wasn't the case, and as soon as Ash had reason to believe she was being abused, he had to step in and end it. If he had his way, he would have dealt with all the people involved in her troubles by now. And I think we all know what he means by dealt with. But it should be Chloe's choice what happened to them. Maybe it would give her peace of mind to forgive them someday. Yeah, I doubt it. And so does Ash. The moment his wife comes and asks him to get rid of the villains in her life, he won't hesitate to take revenge on her behalf. And you just know a man like the Marquis isn't the type to go easy. Speaking of villains from the past, we now get a brief look at how our old friend Joseph is doing after selling his wife. As you probably guessed, he drank almost all of the money away and now only has a few pennies left. Which is actually kind of impressive. It takes a real idiot to waste that much money so fast. First, he bought a big house in town, then took up gambling, which is where it all went wrong. Now he can barely afford the house he's living in, and his side chick keeps asking for more cash he doesn't have. Actually, she wants to trade it for a good bit of gossip. Joseph is literally penniless, so he kisses her instead. Although, if you ask me, a kiss from a guy like him is worth minus points if anything. The woman, whose name is Camilla, has info on the guy who bought his wife. She knows he's no ordinary man and has heard rumors of a prestigious noble family gaining a new wife with brown curls and purple eyes. I wonder who that could be. Joseph is furious. He wanted Chloe to suffer, not to end up in a rich, wealthy family as a marchioness. But Camilla only brought this up because she thinks they can profit from it. No one would want the truth of her past to be revealed, so maybe this is an opportunity to blackmail the Marquise. Wow. You'd have to be truly evil to think of that. But Joseph is even worse. He doesn't even want money, just a chance to make Chloe suffer again and put her back beneath him. He can't stand the idea of her becoming a noble and being his superior, so he's hoping that if he reveals the truth, the others will abandon her, and then he can humiliate her again. Ugh, what a creep! Oblivious to his plans, Chloe is preparing for her introduction to society as the Marchioness. It's customary to debut at a big ball, but since Chloe is still a little nervous around other people, Ash thought it would be best to have a small tea party first so that she can adjust more slowly. He's always so thoughtful. Meanwhile, over at Catherine's house, her father is giving her an earful for making an enemy of the Marquise. It doesn't matter that Chloe was annoying her. She's a Marchioness. Her dad thinks she's stupid for having humiliated someone in such a high position. And let's be honest, he's right. But Catherine is upset that her father would take the Marquise's side rather than defending his daughter. It seems like he only cares about their trade agreement, which Ash is threatening to end if he doesn't punish his daughter appropriately. When he finds out she even tried to meet alone with the Marquise, her father is furious. He bans her from attending any high society parties and orders her to stay home and reflect on her behavior. Ash has warned that if this happens again, he will truly cut ties with their family for good. And on top of that, her father swears to sell all her dresses and precious jewelry to make up for their loss. I mean, maybe it's just me, but does anyone else think he's speaking straight facts? It's only right that she pay for her mistakes. The context to all this is that the Viscount La Villon isn't anywhere near as powerful as the Brinicle family. They only just moved in from the countryside, and they could only do that because the Viscount worked so hard to secure good connections and deals with men like Ash. And in only a few short weeks, his daughter has managed to put all of that in danger. Of course, Catherine doesn't see it that way. She just wants revenge on Chloe by any means possible. On the morning of the tea party, Chloe heads to the library to read a bit about the history of the Brinicle family, since she doesn't know it in detail. It's slowly starting to sink in that she's actually the Marquess, and as the days go on, she has a stronger sense of responsibility to that position. Before she has a chance to read much, Bessie arrives to help her bring the books to her room. But what she did discover is that the Brinicle family was established by the younger brother of the first emperor. Since then, everyone in that family has had royal blood, carried down through generations. The Marquise is also famous for having a good eye, and often picks people who are talented enough to work for the emperor. Even Alicia, the maid she met when she first arrived, was offered a position in the royal family. But she refused, claiming that she loves her job with the Brinicle family too much to leave. They stop walking for a moment, and Chloe catches sight of the room that she was told not to enter. Ash appears before she has an opportunity to look closely. He asks her to take a walk beside him, claiming he has something to tell her. They don't actually get much time together because of how hard he works, so of course, Chloe accepts. They take a walk while holding hands, visiting all the spots Ash frequented when he was young. She tries to imagine what he must have looked like as a child. For some reason, the little girl from her past comes to mind, which is confusing. Why did she suddenly think of that girl? Chloe was never sure about why she lived with them or what happened when she disappeared, but she is sure that the little girl could not have been the Marquess. Suddenly, Ash pulls her out of her thoughts when he drops to one knee. Out of nowhere, he proposes with a beautiful, huge diamond ring. Of course, on paper, they're already married, but Ash wanted the chance to propose officially and give her the chance to choose him back. Aw, he's just the perfect gentleman! But wait, what if she says no? That would be a pretty awkward moment considering they can't actually get divorced. Of course, Chloe isn't going to say no. Even just the fact that he proposed to her is making her feel stronger for Ash by the second. Even after all the trouble she's been through, there's still some room in her heart for love. But she does ask if he would let her go if she asked. That shakes Ash a little, but he agrees to accept whatever decision she makes. Well, that's a change from what he said before. It's clear that even though he said he would let her go, he desperately doesn't want to. But knowing that he would let her go if she asked is enough for Chloe. She accepts his proposal and agrees to be his wife. Ash's big smile returns as he slips a ring on her finger, apologizing for doing this so late. The ring fits perfectly. Knowing the Marquise, I wouldn't be surprised if he had her measured in her sleep. Actually, it turns out that the ring is a Brinicle family heirloom that has been passed down for generations. It's made from a special material that automatically adjusts to the size of the wearer. Is that freaky or what? Ash then goes on to talk about their engagement ceremony, asking if she would rather have a private affair, just the two of them, or an occasion with guests. Chloe doesn't really seem to care. She's just happy to have been proposed to on such a perfect day. As always, Ash somehow reads her mind and assures her she deserves this happiness. Out of nowhere, Chloe asks why he treats her so well. Is it because she's pretty or because he feels sorry for her? Ash says both of those are true, but neither of them are the reason for his kindness. Actually, the answer is very simple. He just loves her. Bam! There it is. First a proposal and now a confession. We've gone from 0 to 100 in just a few minutes. That's also why you can't blame Chloe for being a little suspicious. Even without all the trauma of her past, it would be hard for anyone to believe the super handsome rich Marquise just fell in love with her and decided to shower her with wealth and affection. But she does want to believe him, and hearing those words from Ash makes her undeniably happy. So happy that she actually starts to cry. No. A few minutes later, Ash suggests they go on a little trip sometime before the ceremony. She's only really been around the estate, so he asks if there's anywhere she wants to go. Weirdly, the first place that comes to her mind is the Vincella orphanage where she used to work. Wait, really? Why would she want to revisit such an upsetting place? I guess Chloe is just very wise. She doesn't want to forget her past as she moves into this wonderful future. So instead of leaving everything behind, she wants to go back and remember what she had to do to get here. Sounds kind of intense if you ask me, but maybe we'll give her some kind of closure. It would also be good to talk to all those fake people who said they would help her in the past, so that she can find out if they really had good intentions or not. Sounds a little risky if you ask me, but Chloe is determined to face her past in order to move forward. But clearly, the idea of going back there is stressing her out. She wakes up at night crying from a horrible nightmare. She hasn't been dreaming at the Marquise estate so far, but now that her body and mind have recovered a bit, she doesn't just pass out in bed at night, which is actually not a good thing. The nighttime was always something she feared while married to Joseph. She spent most of her daytime alone, but at night, she couldn't protect herself. She turns over, looking at the new shiny ring on her finger. She's not sure what's making her so nervous, but decides to go on a walk through the grounds, dreaming of traveling outside the world. All of a sudden, she's become very skittish and suspicious of her place in this estate. She ends up in front of the forbidden room, overwhelmed with the urge to look inside. Then maybe she'll be able to relax once she knows this big dark secret that her husband is hiding. I don't know about you guys, but I have a very bad feeling about this. She stands outside the door, shaking, not sure which decision to make. Ash has treated her well, but she doesn't want to be fooled again in case her heart gets broken like last time. But she eventually turns away. Ash has given her everything she wants, other than revealing whatever's behind that door. If that's the only thing he asks, then can't she do this much for him? Even while she's walking away, Chloe is really bothered by that room, and by her reaction to his affection in general. The L word has really spooked her, which is only natural considering her past. She just can't appreciate things for what they are in the present, which is probably why she wanted to go and visit that orphanage so badly. While she's having a bit of a mental breakdown in the hall, Ash spots her and quickly ducks behind a pillar. Kind of sus that his first instinct was to hide rather than check she's okay. He watches her turn back to the forbidden room, shocked to see her reaching for the door handle. His heart is beating 1,000 miles a minute. She'll find out a whole load of secrets if she opens that door, and he knows her reaction won't be good. But for some reason, he doesn't stop her. And it's a good thing he didn't, because she once again drops her hand and walks away. Chloe has convinced herself again to take Ash at his word and not let her past experiences dictate her present actions. Honestly, she's way smarter than me. I would have run straight to that room the first night she arrived. Ash is also very grateful for her choice and once again feels assured that she is still the same girl he knew when he was younger. Watching her head to her bedroom, he suddenly calls out and covers her with his jacket. He explains that he's easily woken and naturally has more energy at nighttime, which is about the least convincing excuse I've ever heard. But she seems to buy it. He also mentions that he can't sleep well without the one he loves beside him, which is putting a heck of a lot of pressure on Chloe if you ask me. She just got over a super abusive ex-husband, dude. I think sleeping in the same bed is a long way off. Once again, the question rises in her mind about her duties as a wife and what it means to a noble family to have an heir. Fortunately, Ash is good at reassuring her, like always, and comforts her. I still think he should lay off on all the married couple stuff until way further down the line, but at least he's being gentle. Ash encourages her to go back to bed and get some sleep, even offering to stay by her side until she dozes off. It's a testament to how much Chloe trusts her husband that she says yes, hoping his presence will calm her down. The next morning, Bessie is asking Chloe about her trip to the orphanage with Ash, surprised that the two of them would make such a weird journey. She assumes at first that they're just being good Samaritans, and can't help feeling a little sad that their first outing as a couple would be to such a dreary location. Yeah, you and me both, Bessie. Chloe then sets her straight, explaining that she used to work at the orphanage in question. Bessie stays quiet after that, wondering whether she's going back because of good memories or bad. Regardless, she doesn't want to stand in the way. All Bessie can do is what Bessie does best, make her look as beautiful as possible. She dresses her mistress up in a stunning purple ensemble to match her eyes, with her hair and makeup beautiful as always. Bessie waves her off with a satisfied smile, while Chloe starts to become overwhelmed by her fears and expectations. The director of the orphanage, Doria, wasn't exactly a generous person, so she's a little worried about how the kids have been treated while she was gone. She also hardly paid wages and claimed that the money that wasn't paid for was being used for a seriously ill kid named Steven. She eventually did offer the full money that was owed, but started crying about poor Steven and what would happen to him. So of course, Chloe felt so bad that she voluntarily gave up her wages for his treatment. Yeah, I don't believe that for a second, and thankfully, Chloe is starting to realize the truth as well. But in order to move on, she needs to confront her old boss and find out if she was really using her or not. Because if she was, well, let's just say she's in a good position now to do some real damage. Remember what Ash promised her? Yeah, it's payback time, baby. At the orphanage, a young girl with red hair has taken Chloe's place as the latest unemployed worker. In preparation for the arrival of the Marquise and Marchioness, Doria had her clean the entire orphanage from top to bottom, hoping that this wealthy couple are planning to make a big donation. Wow, she even looks like a villain! I already dislike this woman! As soon as she hears the sound of carriages, Doria runs outside at once to greet their guests. When Ash emerges, she goes bright red. That's just the kind of effect he has on girls. But then Chloe appears holding his hand and responding to him calling her wife. And mean old Doria nearly has a stroke. She can't believe it. How could her old assistant have become the wife of one of the most powerful and attractive men in the land? She's still wondering if this girl is just a lookalike, right up until the moment where Chloe greets the director by name. I hope she's ready, because this is not going to be a happy reunion. Doria tries to recover herself, acting all cute and delighted that her old friend became a Marchioness. But she's not a particularly good actress. Chloe can't help but think back to her youth when she trusted Doria to guide and help raise her. But the truth was she worked her ruthlessly, making her get up early in the morning and tend the children until late at night. Memories of that hardship haven't gone away. Meanwhile, Doria can't keep her eyes off Ash. Quite the contrast from when she used to warn Chloe that men were dangerous. Doria then asks about Joseph, and Chloe explains coldly that she was sold to the Marquise. The older woman is shocked, but Ash smoothed things over the way he always does, by being charming and graceful. A little flustered, Doria compliments them both and steps forward to take Chloe's hand, congratulating herself on her fairy tale fantasy. Yeah, apart from the unpaid labor and abusive ex right in the middle of it. Chloe's attention is caught by the servant girl running over nearby with a huge pile of laundry. Her name is Irene. She used to be an orphan when Chloe worked here all those years ago. Turns out she never left. The director asked her to stay and work, so she did exactly that. Right, more free labor for the lazy director. Chloe is stunned. Irene reminds her of her old self, being fooled into working for other people because of her fears of the outside world. Irene starts asking how she's been, and then suddenly trails off when she sees Ash. And not in the, oh wow, he's cute kind of way. It's obvious Doria has been telling her scary stories about bad men in the real world to keep her trapped in the orphanage. So now she's probably scared of Ash. Doria, still smiling sweetly, compliments Irene for having such a good character and being a hard worker. Chloe wants to speak to the girl alone, but Doria won't allow it, until Ash steps in and offers a big chunk of money for the orphanage, that is. Then suddenly, she's all big smiles and wide eyes. Ugh, this lady sucks. Once the two girls get some time alone, Chloe is able to ask her honestly why she didn't leave this place when she was old enough like the other kids. She used to play in the streets when she was younger and didn't seem scared of men back then. The only explanation for her sudden change of behavior is the director's manipulation. She's even cut her hair super short to try to make herself less pretty. That way she won't attract any dangerous men. That's so sad. That woman has totally ruined her self-confidence just to have another worker. That's exactly what she did to Chloe. It was all on purpose for her own benefit. After seeing the same thing happen to Irene, there could be no doubt. Doria was a villain all along. She never had her interests at heart. Chloe can't decide if she's more angry or sad. She asks about Steven, the kid who was sick, and discovers that he died shortly after she left. Chloe is devastated, but she still doesn't realize that Doria was lying about her wages. It's only when Irene reveals that he was never even taken to surgery that the truth comes crashing down. Apparently, Doria said his condition was too severe for surgery, so all he got were some measly painkillers towards the end. Wow, that's bleak. Especially since Chloe vividly remembers a doctor saying that there was hope for Steven if he could be operated on. It was a risky procedure, that's why it was so expensive. And even worse, that was actually the reason Chloe married Joseph. Doria said the only way to get enough money for surgery was to marry him and hand over the cash for Steven's sake. Then when that wasn't enough, she agreed to hand over her wages as well. Wow, so it was all for nothing? How can one person be so horrible? It's even more heartbreaking that Irene still believes in the director, who has promised to find her a good match just like Joseph. Doria said that since the world is so full of bad men, she has a duty to protect Irene and find her someone special. Chloe corrects her, explaining that Ash is not the man Doria originally picked. She now feels a strong sense of responsibility to Irene and all the other kids in this orphanage, but before she can do anything, she needs proof. So while Ash and her are riding home in the carriage, she finds the courage to speak up and ask him for help. He already seems to know the problem and offers to help investigate any embezzlement or corruption that might be going on at the orphanage. It's not clear if he knew something beforehand or if he is just a really good judge of character, but either way, he's right on the money. Chloe senses that he must have been through a lot to suspect people that quickly, but she doesn't push him. Which is good, since Ash isn't ready yet to reveal all the ways he's taken revenge on villains just like Doria. He just assures her that he's fine now, because she's by his side. He always thought of her when times got tough, the way she used to smile innocently as a child. Which once again begs the question, what is their connection? The tension is killing me! Ash can tell there's a lot on her mind right now, so he doesn't bother her except to say that she's amazing, and she really means a lot to him. He promises to help her with the investigation and asks her to stop calling him my lord so formally. They're way past that at this point. He doesn't want to force any feelings, but at least it would make them feel closer if she treated him more like a friend. Chloe answers that he is already the closest person she has, even if she does keep calling him by his title. A few days later, Director Doria is sitting in her office, waiting anxiously for another visit from the Marquise. She hasn't been able to sit still since Chloe appeared with Ash on her arm and keeps worrying about seeing her again. Most of the time, Doria does pass on donations and grants to the children of the orphanage. She just tends to sneak herself a little something on the side, even if that means depriving a child of life-saving surgery, apparently. If anything, the experience with Chloe has convinced this horrible woman that she needs to be even harsher with Irene, making sure she ends up someplace she can never escape. She's actually planning to sell the girl somewhere truly awful, just so that she can't be humiliated by another Marchioness in the future. What a witch! When the noble couple arrive, Doria prepares to act as nice as possible so that she can earn an even bigger donation. But this time, Chloe isn't playing nice. She gets straight to the point, detailing the treatment she endured while married to Joseph as Doria fakes a sympathetic sigh. She reaches for Chloe's hand, but the Marchioness slaps it away. Then she accuses the director of pocketing all the money from her marriage instead of using it for Stephen's surgery. Doria tries to deny it, of course, claiming that the doctor said there was no hope. But if that was the case, then she should have given the money back, and she obviously didn't even try. Doria's excuses are all pathetic, but she even goes further and calls Chloe petty for asking about money when she's a noble now. Ignoring her, Chloe reveals a doctor's prognosis from before Stephen's death, where it explicitly states that surgery would have been a success if Director Doria had given the money. Instead, she told him they didn't have the funds, but that is also proven incorrect when Chloe pulls out the orphanage's financial records. Wow, Ash did not mess around with that investigation! The records also reveal that she's been taking a lot of money from the donations she has received in order to grow her own personal savings. All of this could put her away for a long time, but instead of begging for forgiveness, Doria starts shouting at Chloe, saying she should be thankful, because without her, she never would have ended up a Marchioness, which is a pretty bold thing to say to someone who suffered 3 years of intense abuse all because of her. Chloe now realizes she was mistaken for trusting someone as wicked as her, but she doesn't blame herself anymore. Now it's time to finally get revenge. Doria will be punished appropriately for her crimes and hopefully removed from her position so that she can't harm any more children. In addition, Chloe wants to know how Doria's fiancé will react when he finds out about all this. And that's it for today, guys. What did you think? As always, don't forget to like the video and comment for the next part so we know you want more. Remember to subscribe and turn on notifications for updates. See you in the next one!